It gives me a huge, immense pleasure, and it's a massive privilege for me to welcome Laurie. I'd like to say that if anyone has been in the learning industry and does not know Laurie, it's borderline blasphemy, but Laurie is not only a super savvy L&D practitioner, but also an edtech expert, and will be sharing with us today lots of wisdom around how to deal with all the crazy changes we're seeing in the industry, especially when it relates to technology, more importantly, to learning and development.
How many of you are familiar with the book Where the Wild Things Are? If you want to give a thumbs up. If you're not, I will tell you the story very briefly. It's about a young boy named Max, and I see lots of thumbs up, Max. And during the day, he has to obey rules. He has to listen to his parents and all of those good things. And then at night, he goes to where the wild things are. And he gets to be king of the wild things. And he gets to use his imagination, try different things, play, cause chaos. It's a wonderful book. I think it's actually a wonderful book. But I think it's also, too, very interesting and a comparison for where we are or where our employees and colleagues are in this industry right now. So if we look at where are the wild things today, well, this is actually where they are. They're in the prompt bar. Even if your organization, you were at level 1 and you weren't necessarily adopting AI fast, which again, we're going to go into some of the rules and regulations about why that may not be happening, or even if you're at number 5, the fact is that this is where the wild things are. There's people go when they're at home or when they're on their own devices, and they're experimenting and they're using this in a very different way. I would really, just as out of curiosity, and you can put this into the chat pod, if you want to think about your own mind, when was the last time you used a Google search? For me, I don't think I've used a Google search in 2 years. I just don't use it anymore. Everything for me goes through, I use Claude, that's mine, and everybody has their own. But to actually go into a Google search, and I had to remember, how do I Google search? What do I put into that? And it's a very different experience. We are moving into a future where, and I'd love your thoughts, where maybe potentially the course, the one-size-fits-all course, is something that's no longer going to exist. Or it will simply become a body of knowledge, or that will be fed into an intelligent tutor that then brings in context from your organization. It might look at knowledge management. It might look at your CRM, or your customer relationship management system. All of these things together, rather than just a standard course. Usually when I say this, there's a lot of heart palpitations, because if we don't build courses, what do we do? Well, we're going to look at some of that, but it really is moving towards that intelligent tutor to that. Adding AI to the learning requires the students to refine their thinking, absolutely, so they can ask the right questions. And yes, it's easier for AI to differentiate for each student. Students get left behind in the classroom. They can very easily get left behind if they're not outspoken, or if they're at the back of the classroom, or they don't know how to express themselves. Whereas AI also, too, I find, creates a sense of safety. We hear from a lot of students using it, even adults who are doing simulations, role plays, things like that, that they're not wasting that avatar's time, right? They can run the simulation as often as they want and experiment more, because it's not a real person who's going to say, yeah, like, I needed to pick up my kids at 3. Can we, speed it up? Or feel uncomfortable about maybe the fact you have an accent, or any of those things. It allows for a lot more freedom. So I was in California, this is a while ago, and I went on, it was about a 3.5-hour hike. And you can see it was all along the coastline. And what happened was, this dog just started following me. It wasn't my dog. For some reason, it liked me. It wouldn't let me get close enough to really see its tag, and it wouldn't have helped either, because I was in an area where I didn't have a signal, because it was quite remote. But this dog kept following me. And what happened is other dog walkers were on the same trail, and they started scolding me, saying, well, where are your poop bags and where's the leash? You can't have the dog on. Yeah, the dog has to be on a leash. And I kept saying to them, this is not my dog. And they kept saying, but it looks like your dog. The dog is following you. But I think this reminds me of somehow we get into a bit of a spiral with L&D, where we need to really define who the dog owner is. And this is some of the things that I'm starting to see with my clients, or I've actually not starting to, I've seen it for probably 2 years, is that we are looking at AI transformation as a learning problem. It is not our problem. We own a very specific part of it, and that is to upskill people in AI. But we do not own the enterprise workflow. That's something that needs to be owned either by, the transformation or your chief AI officer. It's not L&D. We're there to build capability, and we need to, so they can enable a new reinvented workflow. But we don't handle the dog. We don't clean up the poop. We can pet the dog and say, nice doggy, but we don't feed the dog. We don't do the vet, and we don't do that maintenance. And I really wanted to make sure that's clear, because if you're getting that pressure from your organization, that's distracting you from what you should be doing. And you need to look back and say, okay, who owns this dog? Because it's a great dog, not mine. I wanted to end this with breathe. Okay. When we did the question before, you'll see not everybody is over at number 5. AI adoption there are swings and roundabouts. It's not global. 1 in 6, and this is actually Microsoft data, of people in the world use generative AI. Okay, so breathe. That's not saying be slow, but breathe. The other thing here is not all adoption numbers are equal.
I think, especially in this case, words have a very important meaning.
Yes.
AI adoption does not mean impact or change behavior. It's
totally. Yeah, it means that they've played with it, and what I don't think we've really defined, what adoption means. It's kind of similar to when we were looking at marketing automation, and we would say, well, if somebody logged in once, the monthly active users and daily active users, it was MAUs, DAOs, and WOWs, weekly active users. Those are very different metrics to somebody actually going in and building an agent and redesigning their workflow. So that data is there's, you can of course look at different studies, but I wanted to just put this as a level set to, if you're feeling like you are behind, just breathe and let's be a lot more practical.